Hello everyone, welcome back to this art channel, and I'm doing a wooden charm of Anya from Spy Family today. Now for this wooden charm, I'm going to use a combination of acrylic gouache as well as just traditional acrylics for the character Anya, who's going to be on this wooden charm. These wooden charm I picked up at local stores, but I'm told that you can pick up on Amazon as well as like other online websites as well if you just kind of Google mason jar wooden charms. But they have like various shape, but I just thought it was so fun to have the idea of like these various mason jars with all these mini chibi characters on it. I think it'll be just so much fun. So I'll be painting a small collection of these in anticipation of my upcoming anime convention. It's my one and only anime convention that I do in the year in Vancouver. Hopefully they'll be well received, because like usually I don't think people sell, or maybe they're not as popular like original artwork. I think like hopefully this will be like something that will capture someone's attention, that they will find is personable, and something they would give to a friend who will treasure it. So I'm using acrylic gouache to initially paint the flesh as well as like her hair. The reason being that is I actually had fully intended to do full acrylics for some of these wooden charms, but for the acrylics that I purchased, there is a very limited color palette, so I was missing some baby pinks and some flesh colors and black, and I thought like, how can I improvise while buying like another set of markers? I thought, why don't I use what I have in terms of supplies at home, and that is acrylic gouache. So acrylic gouache is a type of gouache that is quite opaque, very pigmented, and they dry matte, and they also dry permanent like acrylic. So I thought, why not try it out? So through this process, I do have some tips for you if you plan on using acrylic gouache, although I don't think this is a popular choice for most people, because acrylic gouache will be a little bit more expensive on baseline compared to, let's say, acrylics, and it's not as readily accessible in like a lot of places. Like I think that acrylics, you can buy them like a dollar store and just a lot of different places, whereas I find for acrylic gouache you really have to go to like a specialty art store, or like at least your local art store, to purchase some. But anyways, I find that a little goes a long way. I don't have to use a lot of the gouache, which is a really good thing. You can see I have other characters I'm working on at the same time while I'm working on this Anya character from Spy Family. I plan on doing like this whole collection of these chibi characters that are going to be stuck in mason jars, and we'll see how well they're received. So here for Anya, I'm just painting her little like head ornaments or decorations that she has on her head. One thing I would suggest for a tip for painting with acrylic gouache is that you want to make sure not to add too much water, or if any water, to it, just because you're painting on wood, especially in my case, is quite porous. So if you add water, like the painting is gonna look a little bit messy, and the paint will spread easily through the different pores in the wood. So if you want something a little bit more defined with like clean lines, try not to use water if at all, if you're painting on wood specifically. So once that dries, I usually add the next layer, similar to acrylics for gouache. Especially when I'm painting on something like this, I want really like defined colors. Try to give the previous layer some time to dry before adding the next layer. Usually the drying time depends on like how large of surface area you're painting, and also like how thick the paint layers you're adding on, as well as if you add any extra water or moisture to it. But for something small like this, I would say probably around like 2 minutes to 5 minutes is a good amount of time before adding in the next layer. For me, I'm actually using a variety of different types of art mediums for this piece, which is really fun to kind of like juggle and use like these different art supplies. So you can see I'm using acrylic gouache, and then now I'm using a Sakura Jelly Roll, which is like an archival ink pen. This is actually really handy to have because you can pick it up at your local stationery store or your art supply store. It's pretty readily available. You can pick them in packs, and Amazon, and I usually like to use the medium sized nib because they have different sizes for thicknesses for the lines. So the medium size I believe is like size 8, but you can get something finer like a 5 or something thicker like a 10. You can see these secure jelly rolls. The ink actually glides on really smoothly. It's just so easy to maneuver and do these fine details, and you can see like the face is popping so much more now that I've added in that white highlights. Just makes a really big difference. And then I'm using this yellow acrylic marker to add some highlights to ANYA's outfit. If you want colors like yellow or white to pop more, or like reds and such, I would suggest adding a layer of white on the bottom before adding on like red and yellows. And of course that will make the color pop a lot more, as opposed to, let's say right now she's wearing a black dress. When I add layer of yellow on, it just doesn't stand out as much. So that's just from trial and error for me, and I hope this is helpful for you. I should mention that this video is not sponsored. It's purely from an artist to an artist, sharing with you my experience with using these acrylic markers as well as these other various art supplies. Now I'm using a brown Posca acrylic marker to do highlights for the character's eyes, for ANYA's eyes, as well as like the rest of the character for her hair, as well as her school uniform. I enjoy using like a lighter marker to do outlines. Like something like brown feels a little bit warmer and softer as opposed to like black, because I feel like black is just so defined and it just stands out quite a bit. So that's just my personal preference or style. Sometimes I actually like to use other colors besides brown. I think like using a cobalt blue, something different with like a hint of color rather than a traditional black, is also a fun way to add like a different spin to your artwork. We can see the characters coming out nicely. It's like this tiny chibi character that is stuck inside a mason jar. I think it's just so cute. Again, I think there's so many ways you can play around with this art project, whether it's a little character you like from your favorite anime, or it could be like a friend, a family member, or just like it could be a fruit, a vegetable. You can just really have fun with just playing with all kinds of characters inside a mason jar. They also have like various different shapes wooden ornaments that you can pick up that are circular, square, hearts, or Christmas trees. So I think like there are just like so many options for you to play around if you were to do this type of art project, whether it's just with friends, hanging out at a coffee shop, or doing it with your kids at home. It is relatively easy to set up and get all of the supplies, and these markers are things that you can reuse for multiple art projects in the future. So here you can see I'm using my Sakura Jelly Roll to highlight some of like the facial features and the dress for the character, and then going back in between like these ink pens as well as acrylics. It's just so much fun. There could be like a lot of time spent on like thinking about like what kind of figures you would do, what kind of characters, how they would interact with each other. Especially if you get these in bulk, you can do a whole collection of them where they're just like giving them as a set to a friend, a family member, or like grandparents. I think like these are like very great memorabilia that you can save and like talk about from years to come, especially if you plan on doing more personalized Christmas ornaments for yourselves or like for family members. So here I'm almost wrapping up. I do find it very challenging to draw these miniature characters to get these fine, minute details. Luckily, I have many opportunities to try again because it's never perfect, and I've actually done this a few times before I got it right. So don't be too hard on yourself if it doesn't work out the first time. Practice makes perfect. I know it sounds so generic, but it's so true. Just don't give up and keep practicing. Eventually, you will get there. So here I'm almost wrapped up, just doing the little bow for her uniform, and I'll give you a closer look at this piece. Thank you so much for joining me in this video of making Anna from Spy Family, this really cute wooden ornament. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you next time in another art video. Take care and stay creative, everyone. Bye for now.